Good morning and welcome to the Boise Bus. It's the Sunday Blether and I'm your host for today, again, David Logan. Of course, I'm always joined by my Sunday Blethering buddy, Phil, the Riddler McGinley. How you doing, man?
I'm alright, mate. Not too bad at all. Bit very lastminute.com today because I fell asleep because 11 o'clock on a Sunday. I was up late last night. But yes, I'm here though. I've made it. And yeah, happy to be here again to talk about that thing that we love so much, even though they're frustrating the hell out of us right now. Celtic. It's a rather important game today in the Scottish Cup.
I know, very important game. And of course, before we start talking about that, Phil, let's just get all that good stuff out the way. So, of course, all that good stuff. What does it mean, Phil? Well, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, give us a share, slag the hair, hit that bell for notifications that the bus is on its way. And of course, you become a Boise Bus member for a small cost of $1.99. It's totally optional. All our content is absolutely free. There's no extra. It's just a way you can help support the bus and keep the bus's wheels turning, as we say. And of course, big shout out to our sponsor, spysports.com. 12.5% off your order at the checkout with the code BUS1888. And when you do become a Boise Bus member, you get your little name in green and a little symbol there. And usually Boise will rattle off all the names and bring them up, but I don't have the eye coordination to do that. So big shout out to everybody that is a Boise Bus member.
Update on subscriptions. We're now at 4,500. I saw as I was setting up the show this morning, it was 4.5k. So we've made it to 4,500. So 5,000. We're coming for you next.
There we go. We're coming for you. Big 5k. Philip, let's talk about 5k. I mean, that show last Sunday, people must have realised I wasn't on and they decided to come watch the show. Because that was just some crazy numbers. I was actually at Celtic Park doing the stadium tour. The missus got it for Christmas, despite us saying we wouldn't get each other Christmas presents, and I fell for that. And of course, I didn't get anything. So
you're in trouble, boy.
I know. I know. Well, we went to the stadium tour. It was really good. The tour guide was brilliant. I did try and sneak around and see if I could find that 70 million treasure chest, but it's well hidden. It is well hidden. It's quite funny actually, right? So we did the tour, and obviously you can go for a meal in the restaurant, which was really bra. And of course she's taking photographs and stuff. And I get a text from my pal a couple of hours later, and he's like, and he's usually the one that likes to send me the rumours and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, here, I seen that there's a Rodgers is out and there's a new manager in the door. It's at Celtic Park the new, and I'm told like, listen, I've not heard nothing. What's this? And he sends me a screenshot of me looking like a right twat. I was like, you bastard.
Yep.
I proper fell for it too.
Well, there you go. David Logue, the new Celtic manager, exclusive.
Oh God. I know, listen,
Could you do a better job right now? Would you have different tactics?
If you think it's bad to do, you would not need chat to tell you that one.
Oh God. Jeez.
But yes, of course, we've got a very important game today, Phil. It's against the high-flying St.
Aye, just what we need. Aye, exactly. Away from home, yeah. Although, keep in mind, we have beat them recently in Paisley, so in a league game. So yeah, hopefully a wee repeat of that today would go wonderful.
Aye, I mean, I don't see any other result. If I'm being honest, I know it's been a hard watch, but I still think I'm not panicking just yet. It's horrible to watch and it's dull and it's boring and we're getting a wee bit fed up. But you know, I think we'll be fine. You got rid of that guy before I did, Phil.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry, mate. That's why I've got glasses on, mate.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Just for the view. Yeah, so let's talk about the game, because I know you would have covered that a wee bit on the Friday Feeling, Phil.
Yep.
But you know, we like to just repeat ourselves sometimes. It's good fun just to go over some old ground. So let's talk about the St. Mirren game. What are we expecting from today? Are we expecting another boring, difficult watch that we've seen at Easter Road, or do you think that maybe, just maybe, we'll see a turning point today?
That's what we're all hoping for. Definitely the latter. Is just some sort of spark, some sort of like tactic that we see that, okay, this can work. This is giving us a new invigoration. I think like most fans are expecting it to be a lot of sideways passing and St. Mirren just stand off us and let us have the ball. They'll be hoping that as in the counter attack. They'll probably looking to be a bit physical as well, because they find that is a key to play in Celtic, as Kilmarnock showed just before Christmas there, where they beat us, where they were just really in our face and physical. And of course, we saw what Aberdeen and Hibs did in the last week as well, where if they're in the game at half time, if they're still in there, then they've got no reason to have it, especially in a cup game. It's win or bust essentially. There was a bit of confusion on Friday night when I asked, is there replays in this? If we draw, does it go to a replay? Pato, one of our regular viewers, said replay, so I took it that was it. But no, what he was doing was a cryptic message apparently, because he felt he's very doom and gloom about it. He's seen Tony Mowbray, St Mirren vibes here, where that of course is where everything went wrong for him that night. I hope that's not the case, but he thinks it was going to be a replay of that essentially is going to happen. Jeez, let's pray that isn't the case though. So apparently it is extra time and penalties today, so it has to be won. So from St Mirren's point of view as well, how are they going to approach it? Are they just going, because in a league game, obviously, sit deep and try and get a point. That's a great result against Celtic. But in the cup, it's like, do they chance it? Do they try to get extra time? Do they try to get a penalty shootout where it is anybody's game after that? So that's going to be interesting from their point of view. How open will they be? I think if they are open, then I do think we will go on and win it, because they will run out of energy eventually, trying to maintain their shape, and we'll pull them, from our sideways passing, we will definitely open up channels to pass into. But if they get to half time and they're still in the game, I worry that we're going to see a repeat of the last week, because again, Stephen Robinson, all he's got to do is watch the last two fixtures and go, well, yeah, if it's 0-0 or 1-0 at half time, just do what they did, just get in their face, just be really aggressive, just stand up to them. Celtic seem absolutely shell-shocked when teams have a go at them, it seems, right now, and it's like, we need to get out of that habit right now. The attitude needs to change of the players, because these teams are fighting tooth and nail. I said on Friday night about, we'll talk about some of the players like Palmer and that, and I was saying, like, it's all well and good turning up in big games. Like, we had obviously some good performances in the Champions League. There was a very unlucky moment against Lazio with that goal, of course, that got chopped off. He scored the great goal against Atletico Madrid in the home game. But see, for him to get those big games, those big fixtures that he seems to enjoy playing in, you've got to beat all of these types of teams, because we play all these teams pretty much every week. Rangers games, 4 times a season. But in between that, you're playing St Mirren, Aberdeen, Hibs, Motherwell, St Johnstone. So it's like, if you want those big games, those big prizes, Lewis, then you've got to turn up in games like this as well. And they're going to be ugly. They're going to be turgid to play through. But this is all part and parcel of playing for Celtic.
I think the worrying thing for me is when we do we come under a bit of pressure and we do concede, the heads seem to drop, Phil. Now, I don't want to keep harping back to previous managers, right? But it's very difficult not to when you see such a contrast in not only our style of football, regardless of what Brendan's saying, is our mentality. And Brendan's always been one for talking about mentality, character.
Yeah.
If we go down a goal, if we would go a goal down, or we concede a goal again under Ange, it was never panic stations. It was a case of, right, it's fine.
Yep.
Start again. We will score.
Yeah.
When we concede, I don't go, right, it's fine. Reset. We will score. I go, yep. Where are we scoring from?
Aye.
When you look at our last few games, we've scored 2 goals have come from major deflections, and then two spot kicks. Yes. Believe it or not.
Aye.
We're not scoring from from open play, really, are we? Like, we're just not creating the chances. Like, I've seen it umpteen times already. We've only been on for 9 minutes, and it is sideways passing, boring football, backwards passing. I remember watching the Hibs game, and one specific part of the game that I almost turned the telly off. I was just getting so frustrated. Was Scales had the ball, passes to Welsh, passes it out to Quinn, passes it back to Welsh, back to Scales. I felt like it went on for 10 minutes. And there's no movement going on. I seen a really funny thing on Twitter. It was like, I don't know if you remember the old Simpsons episode where it was like they're all playing football, but none of them are moving.
Mexico and Portugal. I remember
that. It was a brilliant tweak. So I was like, yeah, that's generally what it felt like. Now, St Mirren, they are full of confidence right now. They scudded Hibs just before we played them, and an important player that was a part of that side was, of course, our loanee, Quinn.
Hyunmin Kwon, as I'm calling him now, because he's turned into the best player in South Korea, mate. Apparently.
Listen, I mean, I know we've I know all of our opinions, and I think it was across the board
Yeah.
about Quinn, where after that abysmal performance against Betis, but I mean it's still early days. He's played 4 games. He's started all of them. I think he's had 2 man of the matches. He's a standout every week at the minute. It's Stephen Robinson singled him out with his midfield partner Boyd Moons, I think his name is. They were massive reason why Hibs were smashed by St Mirren the other week there. Now, is it a fair comment yet to say that perhaps, which we have all been guilty of in the past, is jumping the gun about a player's ability after one game? Now, if we put it into context, his first game at Celtic Park, yes, a friendly against a very good opposition in front of a packed stadium. Nerves are going to get the better of a player. Perhaps did that play a factor? And now that he's settling into St Mirren, he seems to be finding his feet. He seems to be enjoying his football. He's getting minutes.
Yep.
Did we jump the gun? I'm not saying bring him back and stick him straight at the start 11. Far from it. I'm more than happy to see him continue to play and enjoy his football at St Mirren. Of course, he won't be playing today. How big a loss is it for St Mirren today that he isn't in the starting 11 today?
It's actually huge,
That's a crazy question to be
I know.
asking. Crazy question to be asking, but I think it's a fair question to ask.
That is fair. I mean, he's obviously started very well at St Mirren, and he'll get half a season there, get a bit of experience under his belt, and we'll see what he does in the summer. We'll see when he comes back, if he gets his way back in. Hey, it could be a different manager in the summer as well. Who knows what will happen there? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, it's fair enough for the lad. He's getting a chance. You're right about us jumping the gun. We have been guilty of that in the past. And not for a minute I'm saying he's going to turn into this player. But hey, if we jump the gun really quickly on Henrik Larsson's first 2 performances for Celtic, when he scored an own goal in a European game and then passed that ball right to Chick Charnley, then where would we be now with that one? Because people always say if social media was around back then my God, imagine the meltdown fans would have been having after the first 2 performances he had. Yeah, so he's obviously going to turn into Larsson. But hey, if there is a decent player in there and we can get out and we'll be playing in the rough and tumble of Scottish football for half a season consistently, then we'll see what happens. But again, when it comes to the summer, right now, who knows? He might come back and he might get into the team. They say maybe a totally different manager that comes in that might decide to just get rid. So who knows? Or maybe Brendan Rodgers, even if the boy does go out there and does well and he is still the manager for going into next season, might just decide that nah. Because again, he has seen him in training for half a season anyway. So he has seen that. But yeah, if the boy gets some minutes in the legs and some time, because remember at the same time, this is also Brendan Rodgers, who while we can say, well, he sees these boys in training. And I brought this up on Friday, talking about, how Brendan, he has got a bit of an ego and stuff. And I'm surprised he did not jump all over this, David. But when he was asked in an interview, I want to say about October, November time, we just won a game at home. And later the interviewer brought up Liam Scales for him. And Brendan Rodgers kind of shrugged his shoulders and essentially was like, biggest surprise of my managerial career. Didn't see that coming. You'd think he would have been like, I always knew he had it in him. I never doubted him for a second. But instead he was like, I didn't see that at all. I didn't think he had that ability in him. So what can we really read into when we're saying things like, Brendan sees him every single day. So when he says things like that, and it's all part of the sort of microcosm right now of Brendan Rodgers' second spell at Celtic, where a lot of the things that happened in the first time around, it's just like right now, you're just scratching your head and going, what's happened? What is it? Is it the fact he hasn't got his own backroom staff? Is that because Liam brought that up on Friday night? Says, how much work did Chris Davis really do? How vital was Chris Davis to Brendan Rodgers? Is maybe something like that that's making it so different for him right now? Who knows?
I get the question. I understand why it's been asked, but we're led to believe that Rodgers, John Kennedy was offered to go to Tottenham with Ange Postecoglou and chose not to go. So let's not forget that. Rodgers sat him down and said, I want you to stay. So that's how he doesn't have his own backroom staff. I don't fully subscribe to. You tell me Rodgers, of all people, can't pick and choose who his backroom staff is when he's just brought in a boy for Leicester halfway through the season. I don't really subscribe to that. John Kennedy could have went to Spurs. The pay packet there would have been lovely,
huge.
jubbly.
Yes.
Yeah, would have been huge. still continued to work with a manager that he obviously enjoyed working under. In the Premier League, who'd have thought John Kenny would have been offered a job to go work at Spurs?
Aye.
And he chose not to. He chose to stay at Celtic because Brendan Rodgers sat him down and said, I want you to be my assistant manager. And then he goes and brings in a boy for Leicester that he worked under him for 3 years in down south.
Yep.
He's no longer got Harry Kewell. Now I know obviously Strack is still there. I don't know. I know, but it does beg the question: is why did Chris Davies not want to come back to Celtic? Maybe he's thought, well, I've been there, done that. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
But I think like John McCafferty, he's saying that start focusing on Rodgers, and he has destroyed this attacking football philosophy at Celtic. Now, Brendan Rodgers, John would push back on that as he just did the other day. That he's saying that he's changed nothing.
Well, apparently so, yeah.
He's done absolutely nothing. I've done it. I've just said to just keep doing what you were doing. Adding a few sideways passes in there, and don't bother taking it down to the byline and crossing it in. Don't bother doing any of that. Kyogo, you just sit down, mate. Other than that, I've not changed anything. It's beggars belief that he's come out with that statement. I mean, wild. This is the biggest puzzling part of the season for me, Phil. Is I don't recognise this manager that we have in charge. This just isn't. This just isn't the Brendan Rodgers that we expected.
No, I know.
And you know, I know they did say like you shouldn't go back with your exes, and you know it's maybe starting to show. But I don't know. Like it's at 1 minute he's saying this, and then he's saying that, and it's just like I can't follow him. You know, it doesn't. He's all over the place, and I think that's translating onto his team selections, his tactics, if there are any. It doesn't seem like the players really know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
His signing policy now kept going on about quality, and that he needed 4 players in. We're led to believe that he wanted Maeda all along. So far,
well, yes. Doesn't correlate again. Another thing that he said doesn't correlate with what we've been told by Maeda himself.
I found out on Monday. And
yeah, exactly.
Now, listen, maybe Rodgers has been following. I mean, it's not out of the realms of possibility. You know, he was playing at Norwich in the Premier League from the age of 17. He's been in that. This is why a lot of people were freaking out about his goal tally to game ratio. I mean, this boy's been in the first team at Norwich, not playing every week.
Yeah.
A lot of the time sitting on the bench, but he was in and around the first team when Norwich was 17. At one point or another, he's probably played or come off the bench against Brendan Rodgers. Leicester, he's been aware of him. Not to mention the Irish roots as well. Maybe he keeps an eye on who's coming through the island.
Yep.
It's not without the realms of possibility that he has been keeping an eye on him, and he went, I wouldn't mind working with him. And if it's a possibility of getting him, try and get him in. And Norwich might have said, look, we're trying to get a player in. If we can get this boy in, then you can have him. Obviously, Sidney Van Hooijdonk chooses, apparently, to go to Norwich. Suddenly, Maeda is now available to move on, and maybe that is why Maeda is apparently only heard from the Monday that he came in. Right? That's a possibility.
Yeah.
But it's also a stretch, and it's purely speculation on my point. And you know, like this is why we question it. It doesn't make sense. And then the Quinn signing, I mean, very early days, Phil, but I mean, well, this guy was a speed merchant.
I know. I was very encouraged after the Aberdeen goal. Well, I know it was a massive deflection, but it was a bit like a directness to it. Like, you know, he just drove at them, you know, and it was like, right, okay, that's kind of what we need. But then against Hibs, my God, we may as well just play to a man down. He was awful. And then Abada came on, and again, we may as well just be playing with a man down. 2 men down, maybe, who knows? It was awful. Our wing play at the moment is absolutely abysmal.
That was awful. I think somebody had said that we must have spent around about 10 million on wingers in the last few seasons. Crazy to think that none of them can beat a man. I was pleased to see Maeda back in the team.
I know you were. Oh yes, you love a bit of Maeda. You love that chaos he brings.
Yeah. I personally, obviously, like he didn't have a fantastic game. He put in some decent crosses for once, that nobody got at the end of. But nice to see he can do it when you sometimes. I felt personally, I didn't think it's no coincidence that our tempo and press dropped off when Maeda was injured, and then once again when he goes off on international duty. So I was kind of under the impression that we would see a bit of an up in tempo when he came back. Didn't quite happen. I don't know how much game time he actually got for Japan, Phil. So
Regan was keeping taboo. And he asked Regan because he was watching it, felt like every game at the Asia Cup, so he'll have kept tabs on that one. Because I don't know there. Because I think if he'd scored some goals out there, I think Celtic Twitter would have been full of comments about it. But I can't remember seeing many tweets about Maeda just scored in this game or whatever. Because during the World Cup, when he was playing there, you're getting up to date stuff on his performances. The only thing that I seen on Twitter was about Hitati's injury, essentially, which is the type of tweet you didn't want to see during that tournament. But that's the only thing I know, really.
George Barry, yeah, right. But it was a good one, at least.
It was a good cross, yeah. It was a good cross.
Loopy, I totally agree. Maeda needs a ball over the top to run into face and goal. That's his strength. Passing it with his back to goal, shoot out. You're spot on, mate. And the thing is, right?
To Loopy, though, there was one moment, I think, that again just encapsulated just Dyson Maeda and what you get when there was a brilliant over-the-top ball to him, and he was running in, and he did some brilliant defending for Hibs, because the touch that he took sent it back the way, essentially.
I remember that happening, but was that when he ran out of play and went out for a goal kick?
I think, though, if I remember...
Did Bernabei not run into him? I felt like they collided.
No, it was like a ball over the top, and he just totally miscontrolled it and just knocked it essentially 5 yards back the way from his back goal. Right, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I say just sums up Dyson Maeda.
He does chill pill. He's got no first touch. I know he doesn't. It's one of those ones where you just don't know where it's going to go. But I'm just glad that he's back, and of course, there's two other players that have returned from international duty, Phil, that could feature today, and that's of course O and Yang. Two who've, I think, well, as far as I'm aware, didn't feature a lot for their country. I think O came off the bench a couple of times. There was one game, and I'm only going off of Twitter, of course, or X or whatever you want to call it, but Yang apparently came off and changed the game in one of the games that they were losing. That's all I can say on that. I don't know. There is a player in there apparently. Yet to see it, but are you glad that they're back, Phil? Does it give Brendan more options today, or is that a case of like they've run the race already? I personally don't think it's all over for O yet. I still am holding on to some glimmer of hope that there is a player in there, and I think he does show flashes of it, Phil. It's just not coming off from the now. Perhaps it's to do with lack of game time. He might be sitting there wondering, what am I meant to do here, and just still playing Kyogo ahead of me when he's not performing. But we'll get into that soon enough, by the way. I'm sure there's plenty of debate on that, Phil. But are you happy to see them back, Phil?
Don't know if happy's word. There are definitely more options for him. Definitely more personnel there to use. And I know the last time we played the home game we had with St Mirren, where it was a bit of a difficult one, a bit of a slog where they took the lead quite early on. It was an O winner, I believe, about 5 minutes to go, and Yang came on that day as well, and that was the first game where I think a lot of fans were like, oh, Yang looks like there's a bit of a player there, because up to that point he'd been pretty much invisible whenever he came on or whenever he started a game. And then he had a little... No, it was St Mirren, but then we had Aberdeen no long after that, because Yang kind of kept his place in the team, and against Aberdeen I think he scored, but then he had an absolutely abysmal game against St Johnstone at McDiarmid Park, and after that he's pretty much been not seen since. But there was a little spell there, and it started with his performance against St Mirren at home when he came on, and he was taking his man on, because Palmer was having a shocker that night. He went off, but Yang came on and just was just going at the St Mirren defence, and they didn't know how to deal with him. Then I say he's kind of fell into an abyss again. Where his performances he's put in since then. Whether he features today, who knows? I've seen comments coming up as well, just our wingers at the moment. Every single one of them just seem to be so off form. Not one can seem to hit the byline and get a cross in or take a man on. And it's like, if we're that useless with our wingers at the moment, then again, surely that means we should be looking at changing the shape of the team and just abandoning playing wingers, because we may as well be playing with less players at times, because with sideways passing. And you spoke about earlier on, there was a spell during the game. I know the exact spell that you're talking about against Hibs with Scales and Welsh not passing it sideways, because I actually focused on that exact point as well on Friday night. I said that one thing I did notice as well, because the camera angle is quite high at Easter Road, it allows you to see more of the park. And I was watching, instead of watching Welsh and Scales just passing it sideways to each other, I was watching the other players off the ball to see what they were actually doing. And David, it was so lethargic when you watch them. It's like nobody's making any options for these guys. It's like they're just passing it sideways. It's frustrating, but nobody in front of them is trying to do anything adventurous to try and pull a Hibs player out of position. Every player was just looking at the ball, getting passed sideways. Every one of them had a Hibs player within about 5 yards of them, pretty much just hanging off their shoulder, marking them. And you're like, where's the players that are going to try and make a run to create some space for somebody to run into? They were all just kind of watching it. And I'm like, I know it's frustrating watching they two, but at the same time, you can't just blame they two because there's nothing going on. So it's like the whole team at the moment just, it's something I think Russell said last week on the Sunday Blair, just about maybe he's micromanaging it too much. And again, maybe it's a case of you've just got to give the players a bit of freedom, a bit of like, you know, their own intuition when they're out there to find something that works, because it feels to me like they are being very micromanaged in every single aspect of the game now, and they just don't know what essentially to do. They're too confused. There's too much going on there. And maybe it's just a case of you just tell them that, look, do what you think's right out there. If you find yourself in a specific position, see, instead of try to pass it again and again on the edge of the box, see if it opens up. If a gap does open just enough for you to get a shot off, have a shot. But instead, it's always a gap opens up and then it's still pass it sideways. Try and find a way through again. And it's like, sometimes I think the players have just got to, you know, take a bit of charge for themselves sometimes out there. But I don't know how disciplined, how regimented is Brendan being with them? You know, what is he like behind the scenes? Does he really go through them if they don't follow his instructions? I don't know.
Well, that's a great question, Phil. I mean, this is the thing, because now, let's look at Pep Guardiola for a second here, right? He has got Man City playing a very specific way, and he has got the players to do it, right? And then you watch them, and they have to follow a certain style. They've got to be in certain positions on the pitch, and if they break that, regardless if a goal comes from it, you see him losing his mind.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? And I mean, I think it was it Jack Grealish or maybe even Phil Foden. I remember I think they'd won the league that day, and he's got his hand out. He's proper having a go at him, telling him this is what he should have been doing, regardless if a goal came from it and we won the league. And I'm just worried that Pep's such a massive influence on world football and people want to play their style. I'm just concerned that maybe Rodgers has gone down that route of you have to play this way. Like you're saying, a gap opens up. Kyogo makes a brilliant run, and we all see it from the stands, from the television. We're all pointing, going, he's made the run. And a player like Matt O'Reilly has the ability to find that pass. No doubt about it. We've seen him do it twice in the Champions League for Kyogo, and he'll pass it out wide, and you're going, is that because Rodgers has said, no matter what, you get it out to the winger and let him lose the ball? It's such. I mean, you're right. How regimented is he? Is he so stubborn? We know what from what we're allowed to see of him. That he is a stubborn character.
Well, just for a bit of insight on it, I don't know if you've ever seen the open goal interview with Lee Griffiths. Lee Griffiths talked to Cy Ferry, and one of the questions that was asked was the time under Rodgers. Cy Ferry brought up, he doesn't seem like the type of manager that will go through the players, and he does come across that way. He always seems like he would be very mild-mannered. Like, he would have ways of being disciplined with them, but I can't see him, like, giving anybody the hairdryer treatment. And he says the only time it ever happened during that first spell was we played Partick Thistle in a League Cup game. It's quite an infamous one where Jack Henry managed to skin himself, essentially. He came forward with the ball, got to the centre circle, realised there was nothing on, and just kind of turned again and just kept sort of pivoting in the middle of the centre circle till he lost the ball. But we made a bit of hard work at that day, and we won it 3-1 in the end. But Thistle gave us a wee bit of a game. But the thing that annoyed Rodgers the most was we had an important European game coming up, and he didn't want to have to bring on Rogic and Dembele because he wanted to save them for that. He had to bring the two of them on, and they ended up scoring the goals that got us through. And he said, Lee Griffiths says that's the only time I ever saw him like losing his mind after a game, proper like shouting and throwing things around the dressing room. Was that because he was in a position where he had to bring on the guys that he didn't want to. So overall, when you look at if that was the only time, and Griffiths was there the whole time that Rodgers was manager for the first spell, and that's the only time he ever saw him losing his mind, it does show you that he isn't prone to it. So who knows how he gets his message across and how angry he can get with the players. But if that's only one, a 2.5 year spell, it doesn't strike me as he's probably changed that much. I don't think his time at Leicester has made him super angry all of a sudden. So I'd imagine he's still pretty much the same. Maybe every so often you might get a bit of an outburst, but most of the time he's quite controlled and mannered about it.
Yeah, I don't see him taking that Gucci belt off and starting cracking it like a
no,
in the test.
Definitely
not. I don't want to go over this too much, but I have, Jim, I've started your comment there because I've found myself thinking this as well, and I don't want to, right, I do not want to go down that route, but there's been a couple of times that I've just, when it's like, Phil, you're in that wee dark space, you're just like, okay, just get about my club, right? I'm starting to make up reasons. I'm trying to justify my thoughts, and I'm like, Kennedy could just play Ange ball. He knows how to do it. right? So, by the way, Jim, I get why you're questioning that, but let's please put that on the back burner for now, please. I don't want to see John Kennedy managing our club, even if he does want to play Ange ball. But I couldn't help but laugh when I seen that. I wanted to bring up because I was in that dark mind space the other day as well, Jim. Now let's talk about a player, Phil, that is suffering pretty badly with Rodgers' style of play right now. And of course that is our star man Kyogo Furuhashi.
Yes.
Chris Sutton had his say on this in his column for the Record. Don't need to go read it, guys. I know just your views on the Record at times, but this is what Chris Sutton had to say on it. He said Kyogo Furuhashi is having his influence absolutely killed. There's a real chance that it may lead to the slow death of Celtic's title bid. Brendan Rodgers has been outspoken about the needing quality, yet he can't find a way to get the best out of his highest quality striker in the country. Now he's been left on the side. And I mean, it's hard to disagree. It's hard to disagree with Sutton there, Phil. Rarely do disagree with Sutton, to be fair. What is it? Is this all to do with Rodgers, or has Kyogo got his own responsibility to be taken up here, that he's not getting on the end of the chances? Not that there's many coming his way, but there was a couple of times. Judge will back me up here because he said it a few times. There are times where Kyogo isn't taking the chances that he normally would. Is that down to lack of confidence or lack of belief in the system that he's playing?
I think he is very much a confidence-driven player. I think when everything is sunshine and rainbows and everything's happy around the club, I think he's absolutely great. But I think you can see with body language and stuff like that if he's quite, if he's a bit down in the dumps, essentially, he's not playing very well, then it does have an overall effect on his game. I do think when it comes to the blame of how he has been playing this season, I think it is probably more leaning towards Rodgers, because we're not zipping many chances across the goal like we did under Ange, where we did that a lot. And Kyogo would be guilty of missing those, but at least he was getting in those areas and maybe just inches away from getting on the end of it. Nowadays, when we do zip one across the goal, in the very rare instance that does happen, he's nowhere to be seen. But why is that? Because he's dropped deep because he's been told to come deeper for the ball. Originally, at the start of the season, I remember Russell speculating this, and it did seem to, again, when you're before the transfer window closed in the summer, you're thinking maybe this is the route we're going down. Maybe we're going to sign like a new striker and stuff, and Kyogo is going to drop into that number 10 role. But obviously that didn't happen because we've discussed the transfer windows multiple times. But I do think that if we're going to look at who's to blame for it, I would say it's probably more on Rodgers in this one. But then Dave Kyogo, you're a good player, and he is obviously a good player. We know what he is capable of. Good players can adapt to new systems and new tactics, and so there is that part. But I would say if we're doing a percentage thing in terms of I would say it was 60-40 in favour of Rodgers, probably more to blame here, because it was working last season. Somebody in the comments said this is a team that won the treble. Why not just stick to the same tactics? Because ironically, this again, and go back to something you said earlier on, David, about things Brendan has said. We could write a book already this season of things that he has said that has totally contradicted what we've seen with our own eyes. where he talked about, he watched Celtic, he's been keeping tabs on the results, the whole time he was away, and he was watching them all last season. And then he said at his press conference, in terms of the change in style, he said, well, me and Ange, we play a very similar style. It'll only be a couple of small tweaks, but it's mostly the same. No, it ain't, mate. It certainly is not. Not what I'm looking at right now. It's far, far different. Yes, there's been a massive dip in the quality, but we should still be more than good enough to be beating teams like Hibs and Aberdeen quite comfortably. It shouldn't be such a slog for us. The quality, it has dipped, but my God, we shouldn't be, going so late into games trying to get salvage a winner or an equaliser or whatever. And then the ironic bit is, and I brought this up on Friday, David, is maybe we should have drew Rangers in this round of the Cup, because it seems like those are the games we've actually turned up for. The big games are when the players will turn up, but they're making hard work of the teams that we should just be dusting aside. And it's like, oh man, we need to sort this quick. We need to find a way just to get these wins and just pull ourselves together here, because I think Brendan said that after Wednesday night, they've got 14 games left essentially. It's got to start now.
Right, so I'm spitballing here, and I probably will get shot down by the comments, but I'm just wanting to ask, right? So, Phil, what is it that Brendan really wants out of his wingers? Now, I'm asking the question. What is it? Do we know what he wants? Do we know what it is he wants out of his wingers? What he wants them to do?
Well, for me, if a winger should always be one who's pacey, skillful, gets the byline, gets crosses, and that seems to be the prototypical winger. Right. That's what it should be. But none of them play like that. In fact, see if you want to look at a blueprint, that's the way James Forrest has played for years at Celtic, where he doesn't really get to the byline and get crosses in. He tends to come to a certain point and just pass the ball inside. It now feels like every one of our wingers are playing like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. You said Kyogo's a good player, right? And he could adapt. He should be able to adapt to positions and whatnot, yeah?
Yep.
What was the first thing that Kyogo did when he came to Celtic? He changed position.
He did. Apparently, he was a left wing, left forward.
He was a left winger in Vissel Kobe. Now, I don't know how Vissel Kobe played. Never watched them, never will.
Yep.
But Kyogo, now it didn't work under Ange, right? But is there room to try? If it gets Kyogo on the pitch with Ida or O or whoever, and it's not working with the wingers right now, is it worth seeing if he could go back to his old position that got him his move to Europe, his £4 million move to Europe, that got him being, touted by Iniesta, who was playing alongside him at the time,
that
he was more than capable of going to Europe and being a success. And it's not working under this system right now under Brendan. If he wants to have his big physical centre forward up front, but we still want to have Kyogo on the pitch, is it worth trying to have him out on the left? Is it? I mean, it was his position before. I'm only asking the question.
Yeah.
Yes, Chilpil, play Kyogo on the wing. Chilpil knows where I'm going with this.
There you go.
Now, is it worth? I mean, he's pacey. We've seen he's great. He's got great ball control. We've seen what he did against Rangers when he had to slip it through to Maeda and he absolutely rinsed the defender and then smashed it with his weaker foot into the top bins. Yep. Is it possible to give it a go? We're going about outside of these wingers and they pace it can't beat a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
why not? I don't see why not. I mean, he's certainly a better footballer than Maeda. He's certainly quicker than Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a certainly better quality player than Jan or Mickey Johnson.
Yep, goes without saying. To me, I think it's worth doing. Funny enough, Friday night we did. Liam spoke about that and speculated, and I said, I guarantee, suggesting that one thing that's going to come back to loads of fans is they're going to talk about that game at Ibrox where he played out wide and Edward played through the middle and he was completely ineffective. He get marked out the game by Liam Balogun, who was playing as a makeshift right back that day.
Was it not his second game though, Phil? Was it not his second game at Celtic?
It
One of the
was
biggest
early
game
on in this
finishes.
time, but the game right before that, we played Hearts in a League Cup game, and we blew Hearts away in the first 60 minutes, where he played as a left winger and Edward played through the middle. There's one goal in particular that Odds and Edward scored, where it was just a brilliant sweeping move all the way up the park, and Kyogo was involved in it, and obviously Edward finished it off. And it's like, so he can play there, but people will always remember the performance against Rangers. But remember, it wasn't Kyogo that missed that gilt-edged chance. It was Odson Edward, because Kyogo did well putting the ball into him, and Edward completely fluffed it in front of goal. But I guess I don't think we should judge it. Again, going back to what you said about Quinn earlier on, how we judge things too quickly. We've only seen Kyogo play as a winger at Celtic, twice then? I can think of 2 times, Hearts in a League Cup game and that Rangers game, but most people always remember the Rangers one. I think it's worth a go.
I don't agree with Steve here. I don't think it's the same as Phelan McGregor on the left back. The boy played at left wing for most of his career. I just don't think it's the same thing. I don't know. I mean, Brian McGarry's saying Kyogo's never a winger. I mean, we've not seen enough of him as a winger. Let's be honest. How many of us have watched Kyogo, Furuhashi playing for Vissel Kobe as a left winger? The only player.
None of us.
None of us.
No.
Maybe Regan. Regan probably has.
Maybe,
He's went back to the record books and watched it. I don't know. All I'm saying is we're going, well, let's put Kyogo in the number 10 role. It's like, well, I don't think he's number 10. He's never played there. I don't know. Listen, this is why I'm just spitballing.
The thing is, another thing though to bring up, David, is it's all well and good theorising that, right? And maybe, Kyogo could adapt to that, but that's until Brendan Rodgers gets in his ear, and what we're talking about is he being too complicated. Yeah, okay, I'm going to put you away today, but this is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to play. That could end up being a factor. So again, it's like Brendan's got to, if it is a case that he has micromanaged too much, maybe it's time just to drop that, because he's the man himself saying they've got 14 games now to go and win this. Well, you better find a way to make it work in those 14 games. So it's a case of you can't be too, complicating it too much for the players. So for me, it's like, it's a good theory, but I worry that Brendan would say, well, actually, this is how what I want you to do when you're out there in the wings. So would it be effective? I don't know.
Who knows? Listen, this is why I said when we were laughing and joking, saying, "Would I do a better job as a manager?" This would be my team talk. Why not? Nothing else seems to be working.
Yeah.
So I mean, that answers my question. Now let's keep on to wingers forward. We're 42 minutes in. We've got 217 people watching live.
Well, here's a question for you, David. I'm going to bring up something that was brought up on Friday, and it really irks me if this is the case, because football is a unique job, because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's an occupation for these guys, right? Where you can essentially half-arse it, right? And throw the towel in, down tools, because you don't like your boss, and they are the ones that will end up getting the sack, right? If I go into my job because I don't like my boss or whatever, and I half-arse it, I'm the one that's going to get punished, essentially. I'm the one that's going to lose my job. But it was put up on Friday night that this is basically, I think it was Pato said it in the chat, that this is a locker room rebellion. We've seen it at teams like Man United. We've seen it at teams like Chelsea many times over the years, where they have basically decided, we don't like this manager, we're just going to be shite, essentially, and get rid of him. And then that manager gets sent on his way, another one comes in, and suddenly the players are being big. I'd like to think that the Celtic players aren't, doing that, but sadly, that's the nature of the beast with football, especially nowadays in the day and age, the social media day and age, where a player gets criticised by a manager and they run to Twitter and Instagram to say how hard done by they feel and stuff like that. But I'd like to think that the Celtic players aren't doing that, because the Celtic fans in particular, they've got to just look at the stands every week and look at us, essentially, what we're going through. We're the ones that are paying them, essentially. We're travelling all over the country to watch them, and some of the performances they're putting in. They need to, if it's a case of they are trying to get Brendan Rodgers out, I really hope that isn't the case at all. I really hope it's no, he's lost the dressing room, they're trying down tools, but it was something that was brought up on Friday night. But I say, football is one of those weird jobs, David, where you can do that. Football players can just do that and they get away with it. The manager's the one that takes a rap for it. So it'd be quite sad if that is what is going on there, and hopefully it's just a blip that they can get over and just find some sort of forum.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case at Celtic. I mean, there might be players that are going, I much preferred playing under Ange. I much preferred his style of football. It was much more. I mean, you could even maybe use the word simpler, if you want, in terms of what he's asking them to do. Maybe not so much for the fullbacks. It might be a bit more complicated for them. But I don't know. think somebody in the chat there said that the squad is split. It's Walker that said that. I mean, I would maybe agree on that. I don't know if there's players deliberately downing tools. I just think there's players not capable of. They're not capable of doing what Rodgers is asking. And I mean, it's been a long time since I felt like this at work. But like when you're just not enjoying yourself at work, like you subconsciously maybe don't put the effort in. I mean, it's just a human reaction. If you don't like something, you're not going to put your all into it, are you? I don't think they're going, I want this manager out. They might be going, oh, I'll look forward to playing under a different manager once this one's over. I don't think they're going out their way to try and sabotage. I mean, this is. Yeah. I mean, for God's sake, these guys are. I mean, you go into Celtic, especially in the last decade. You go into Celtic going, I'm coming to Celtic to win stuff.
Yeah.
Are you really that upset at your manager and your boss that you're going to throw away the chance of lifting silverware as a professional football player at Glasgow Celtic?
Yep. Still very much a double on the line right now, so they'd be stupid if that was the attitude.
Yeah, I don't think so. Listen, there's a lot of things going on off the pitch that's creating this dark cloud over our club right now, and I think the players are well aware of it. Listen, we can go online and vent as much as we want online, and the players, listen, I know what I'd be like. I mean, after this show, I can't help but go and read the comments to see, like, I hope they enjoyed the show. I know a lot of people won't agree with what I have to say and maybe think I'm a bellend or whatever, blah blah blah, but I still can't help but go and have a look because it's just human. I want to just know how the people enjoyed the show. Now, as a professional football player at a high profile club, knowing that you're not particularly playing very well, I think I would be one of those players that couldn't help but nosy on Twitter and see, oh, that's me getting called a prick again for missing this, you know, and then they'll read all the stuff about, you know, we had the Green Brigade fiasco, we've got the Rodgers as a rat, we've got Lowell out, we've got lots of different stuff that players won't be able to escape, and that could be affecting them mentally off the pitch and on the pitch. You know, I don't think they can escape it, and I think that's what's causing a lot of the problems at Celtic. It's just a big dark cloud that we need. But the players have to have the mindset to rise above that and prove a lot of people wrong, prove the manager wrong, prove the fans wrong. You know, one player that's really having a lot of off the ball issues right now, Phil, and it's beginning to show, and that's Leo Abada. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, right? I'm not well versed on it. I don't believe I should. I'm going to give an opinion on it, but what I can say is it's definitely affecting our player on the pitch, and perhaps his. I don't want to say attitude, but his what he's decided to do after the games. He's going straight up the tunnel. He's not taking in celebrations. He's now it was brought up in one of the later press conferences. Rodgers was obviously asked about it, and Ben Rodgers has admitted that Leo Abada is struggling at Celtic right now. It's been a challenge for Leo with everything that's going on off the pitch. This is Rodgers' words. He's well supported. He's well loved here, but there is no doubt it's been a challenge for him. This is a 22-year-old boy we're talking about here. To play football at your best, you have to be in a really positive mindset and in a good headspace, but we will constantly work with him in order to maximise what we can get out of him. Now, Phil, if this was in any other situation at your work where something is like that's affecting you that much, that's that close to you, whether it could be a family member, an illness to somebody, or a death, or you know, a relationship breakdown, if this was your work would sign you off. They would say, look, take some time off. If you're struggling and it's affecting your work, it's affecting your mind at work, you'd be taken out of that situation to get yourself in. And I think Leal needs to be done. I think he needs to be taken out of the situation. I don't understand why, if that is what is happening, if Rodgers is well aware of his mindset, put that aside for a second. We've got a title to win here as a football club. The whole point of the Celtic Football Club is to win games. If bring on a player that is that affected by what's going on off the pitch and his life, you take him out the situation. There's no good bringing him into a situation like this, or a high pressure scenario with his mind not in there. And of course, worst game he's had at Celtic, gets pelters online. Let's be honest, he's getting pelters. Not by everybody, of course. I think there's a lot of people who understand the situation that he's in, whether you agree with it or not. I just think it needs to take about the situation. We've got millions of wingers. That's Yang back.
I know. Brendan Rodgers' own words in 2019. What we saying? A winger for get millions of wingers.
I just think he just needs to just take about the situation. Now he's not. I mean, if we didn't sell him in January, which there was a lot of rumours that he was going to move on. It might have been for the best. I don't know. I just think this high pressure scenario that he's in is not. we don't put him in it. Take about his 22-year-old boy. He doesn't need to be in this situation. He's got to get his head straight. He can't help what's going on in his homeland, and the whole political side of that. He can't do anything about that. And if he can't get his mind straight to do his job, then and it was affecting that badly, I think Celtic just need to take him out of the situation. That's all I've got to say about that. I don't know if you agree with me. Be interested what comments think.
Yeah, I said the same thing to my dad through the week after that quite abject performance that he had when he came off the bench, gave away lots of silly free kicks, just seemed to not be able to control a ball. There was a few where he was on the ball, tried to go on a run and just ran it right out for a throw-in and stuff like that. He just looked like his mind was just not here. And yeah, I said that to my dad. I went, well, here's the problem. He's now a Celtic player from here to the end of the season because transfer window's closed. So what do you do with him? Is it a case of he just doesn't feature? He is obviously a talented player. We know that he's got it in him. He came on against Rangers after his injury layoff, and he got a very big reception from the crowd. There was no hostility at all regarding the political situation right now. So there was none of that. So this idea that the Celtic fans have turned against him and whatnot, it's nonsense. I say I was in the stadium that day. It was a very warm reception. But see, obviously what happened October the 7th, the day after that banner was unfurled against Kilmarnock. Real Abada turns up at the stadium the next day in his crutches with his agent. No smoke without fire. There was definitely some sort of meeting there regarding that situation. I know that Near Beaton has been very vocal on Twitter, but it didn't stop Near Beaton from picking up a wage for 9 years at Celtic, did it? And he knew a lot of the fans' mentality regarding the situation in the Middle East. So that's interesting that he's out there causing a bit of influence now he's far away from the club. But in terms of Abada, it's probably a case of we have to take him out because he's a good player, though. He's such a useful player when he's on it. But if he's not on it, he's no good to us. But you may as well, as I said, play with a man down. You may as well. If that's the performances we're going to get out of him. So if he has to be taken away from the situation and just not picked in any match day squads, as sad as it is, it's going to need to be the way. It just needs to be the way it is. Because right now, if that's the performance he's putting in, then he may as well just be sitting in the stand. He may as well. So yeah, it's a sad situation really, but he will go in the summer. I think this will end in the summer because, again, just stories that you read online about apparently the Israeli national team coach and stuff has been sort of in his ear, and he's obviously said a few things publicly about what he feels about Celtic fans and stuff. And if that's what the Israeli national team manager's saying about Celtic and the fans, then you've got to imagine he's probably saying something similar to the boy who literally plays for Celtic. Getting in his ear, so it's a sad situation. But yeah, if he's going to be ineffective like that, then there's no point in him even being in the matchday squad. Sad as it is, but what can you do?
And now, Phil, I see you've started, so we'll bring it up. So Francis Lester,
yes, I thought we'd bring this one up.
Yeah, let's bring it up because he's raging.
He is, by the way.
You're raging, Francis, and I love it.
He is.
Give me a reason for the playing of a right and left foot players being used on the wrong side. Posted this on numerous pods. No one answers me. Well, Francis, it's your lucky day.
Yes, it is, mate. I've got a name for you. I've got a name for you to blame. Arjen Robben. This is Arjen Robben syndrome. Because for years and years, he was the master of playing on the right-hand side and cutting in on his left foot and bending one into the top corner. And much like earlier on, how David was saying, Pep Guardiola has a massive influence on world football and everyone wants to play like Pep. Every manager now thinks that wingers should all play like Arjen Robben did. That's the blueprint right there. So he is the guy that everyone thinks of when you think of a player who is predominantly 1 foot, that plays on the opposite side, and it feels like wingers are just played that way now by multiple managers. And yeah, we're obviously thinking the same thing. But here's the problem. None of our players are even close to the level of a player of Arjen Robben's quality. I believe when Cristiano Ronaldo was at Man United, the first time around, I think he played on the left side and cut in on his right. I think he scored like 40 goals one season. And again, these guys are elite level players, but our players aren't obviously anywhere near that level. But yeah, it seems like a lot of managers nowadays think that that's how we should be playing wingers. You know, you play them on the weak side and they cut in onto their stronger foot and ping one right in the top corner. And if only we could do that. I know Jota tried it quite a few times for us when he was here, but he kept getting closer. I felt like every time he tried to bend one into the top corner, it was just getting closer every time, but he never managed to quite pull it off in his time here. He cut in from the left onto his right foot. But yeah, it's essentially they've looked at, you know, over the years, guys like Robin and stuff doing it. So it's like that's a guy should be aspiring to be. Try and do what he does. And yeah, just some players just can't obviously do that.
Well, yeah, that pretty much covers it, I think.
There you go.
I got nothing to add to that. Yeah. Right. So, Phil, it's been a while since we've done this, so I'm going to annoy everybody. Sometimes on the Sunday Blether, we like to talk about things that maybe aren't fully Celtic related.
Oh, goodness.
However,
dangerous territory here, David.
However, does affect Celtic.
Oh, yes, okay.
Now, we've all, I'm sure, heard about the blue card.
Oh,
we all heard about the blue card. If you don't know what I'm talking about sin bins. And we've got 5 minutes left to end the show. I feel like it's maybe worth bringing up because I asked the question on Twitter the other day, Phil. Who's asked for it? Who's asked for this? I don't know anybody that wants this in our game, Phil. Do you? Do you know anybody that wants it?
Never crossed my mind, never crossed any. I've never seen people on Twitter or anybody clamouring for it.
It's a strange one. Now there was an article I read this morning because that's what I do. I do my homework right before we come on, like all good students do. Just do it 5 minutes before the deadline. I got up this morning and I thought I'm gonna have a look at it. Like, let's have a look at what's going on with sin bins. Now there was an article on ESPN's site yesterday that wanted to clear some things up about sin bins. So I'm just going to quickly read what I've got here. Okay.
Sure.
So it turns out sin bins have already had a successful implementation in the lower levels of football since 29-20, with players ordered to leave the field for 10 minutes if they showed disrespect to an official. The new trial for higher level football, which is expected to last at least 12 months, will include situations where a player deliberately takes out an opponent in an attacking situation when a red card isn't warranted. One such example was Italy's defender Giorgio Chiellini.
Yep.
What a name. Dragging back England's Bukayo Saka by the scruff of his neck in the final of 2020. So that would have got him a sin bin, Phil.
Alright.
Grassroots football in England, which has a particular problem with referee abuse from players, has been using the yellow card to indicate this offence across 31 league games since 2019 to 2020, and the IFAB wanted a different colour to be distinct to players, coaches and supporters, and have chosen blue. Now, fans won't be seeing the blue card in the top level competitions like the Premier League, La Liga, UEFA Champions League, etc. At all. The trial over the course of the next season won't be permitted at the very top level, and it would be coming in from 2026-27 at the earliest before it could enter the laws of the game. So FIFA wishes to clarify that the reports of the so-called blue card at elite levels of football are actually incorrect and premature. The sports governing body has said in a statement following Thursday's reports, any such trials, if implemented, should be limited to testing in a responsible manner at lower levels. A position that FIFA intends to reiterate when the agenda item is discussed at the IFAB AGM on the 1st of March. So, panic station's over. We're not seeing any blue cards next week. We're not going to see it at any top level for some time. Hopefully, it's a complete and utter disaster, and we will never see such blue cards in our game. It's absolute nonsense. I don't understand why football are so determined to bring in all these different rules from other games. If you're going to bring in a rule from a different game, I put forward hockey's rule of just punching the life out of each other when you are in a disagreement. If you're wanting to do it for entertainment values, just let the players sort it out on the pitch. Don't want them to exit. If you're going to bring in a different rule for football. So, panic over, Phil, but sin bins,
Get that in the sin bin, mate. You can bin them right away. It's just a ridiculous story when I saw it. I think, got to quote him, he said it himself. Ange Postecoglou was asked about it in his press conference before Tottenham's game at the weekend. And again, he was saying what you're saying. Who's asking for this? Why are we trying to overcomplicate it? You know, why are we doing that? You take a player off for 10 minutes after they've been running about. Well, they're going to, you know, that's going to increase the chance of injury and stuff like that. You know, essentially they have to wait around. I mean, I'd imagine they would be allowed to keep, like, you know, jogging and keep a bit of movement in them instead of standing around for 10 minutes. To me, it's just ridiculous. We've already got a disciplinary system for that. Somebody, you know, fouls a cynical foul, tries to stop a counter-attack, they cop a booking. It's that simple. I watched Callum McGregor last season for Celtic get a red card, you know, the old taking one for the team. We're playing Motherwell in a game at Celtic Park. We beat them 2-1, and late on, Motherwell got on a counter-attack. And Callum McGregor, already on a booking, just went, fuck this, and just went through a guy and just basically took one for the team in the last minute. He actually got like a standing ovation from the stadium because he basically stopped them from the counter-attack. It's like, we've already got these things in place that will stop play. I don't know what they're hoping to achieve with that. And I know this might be a generalisation, and I know rugby's got it, but the first thing I thought was the Americanization of our sport has to stop. It really does. I mean, there's Celtic 88, say we're calling it soccer next. And it does feel like we're trying to appeal to new markets. You know, FIFA and UEFA want to try and expand the game and, you know, get there's lots of money to be made, especially in the North American market, because football, soccer, isn't the number one sport out there. So they need to do things. And so they've already got it in ice hockey in North America, sin bins, players go off for a period. So it's like, we don't need it. We've got, you know, a decent enough disciplinary system, yellow cards, red cards. So if you do a cynical foul, you cop a booking. If you happen to already be on a booking, you've decided, I'm just going to take one for the team here. So be it. That's the player's choice to do so. So I don't think sending them off for 10 minutes to wait around isn't going to deter them from still doing it. And football is such an emotional game for the players on the park. The referee, sadly, is just going to keep getting flack. Every decision gets scrutinised by every player. It's just a fact. They've tried things before. I remember rugby. Rugby seems a lot more disciplined with that, where it's like the referee, they don't crowd them and stuff like that. I know in football they've attempted things like that over the years, where it's like only the captain can go and speak, but it just doesn't happen. It's just natural out on the park that other players will just get emotionally involved. It's so hard to filter out. So we just need to stick to what we're doing. I think it's fine the way it is. Nobody asked for it at the end of the day, as you rightly said, David.
There's lots of questions going. What happens if we get 3 players sent off in sin bin? There was another one. What happens if the goalkeeper gets sin bin? Now, I don't watch hockey. I've got no interest in it whatsoever. But a client of mine was telling me, who is a hockey fan, that if the hockey goalkeeper gets sin binned, he has to just he stays on the ice, and another player would get sin binned.
Okay.
Can you imagine?
I was going to say an outfielder, but it's not a field that they put on. An outrinker would have to go off. I don't know how you would define that. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about all the crazy goalkeepers that would just get players sin bin, like even like Alan McGregor, that absolute mental case. Like just effing and blind at the ref.
But the ref would never see it. Alan McGregor did all sorts of stuff off the ball, and the referee never saw it. Yeah.
So I mean, like you said, get that whole thing in the bin.
Please.
For an hour and 3 minutes. There's 251 watching live. Before we go, let's just get a wee prediction in. Comfortable victory today. I'm going to say 3-1.
All right, okay. After all the doom and gloom chat of the last hour, you're going to say comfortable victory. Good stuff.
What are you talking about, doom and gloom?
Yeah. Oh, it was. I mean, Dave, we're just calling it as it is. It's not been great to watch at the moment. I said this to Liam on Friday night. I didn't look for a score prediction. It was just a simple question of, will Celtic still be in the draw come close of play tonight? I think, yes, we will. I think we'll squeak it. It might be one of those days again where we're passing it around sideways for a long time and waiting for a goal, but I could see us getting into the hat. And that's what I've seen the cup games especially. You could win every game from now to the final 1-0 and a scrappy goal each one, but you win the cup at the end of it. So it's all about just 2 deflections probably. As long as they're in the hat come the draw. I think the draw's tonight, or is it tomorrow, whenever it is. But yeah, as long as we're in it, then that's all that matters. So just need to make sure they get it done, and then try and next week it's Kilmarnock in the league at Celtic Park. So we need to we definitely owe them a doing after what they've done to us this season. So we need to hopefully get it right and start really clicking into form. But yeah, the double is still on the line, so we need to make sure that we are in that draw tonight.
I was going to call it there, Phil, but I can't. I did start a comment earlier, and it's been brought up again. So a lot of people saying fuck the cup, just want the league. I mean, I'm like, come on, just we need momentum at least. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like that's a totally different pod, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll call it there. It's 1 minute and 5 minutes. 243 watch it live. We do appreciate every single one of watching you, every single one of you watching us. You can tell I'm getting the cold again. Can't get more soon. I hope you have a great Sunday. Hopefully it's a result that we're all hoping for, and it's an enjoyable game to watch. But most importantly, like I say, Phil, so long as we win the game, that's what matters. Have a good Sunday. Take care. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Phil, for joining me.
No worries. Catch you later, guys.